Right, good morning again. This is the last section now on labor. Okay, and it's probably the easiest one. There's only a little bit of theory really, and to be honest with you, and the only reason I left it till the last is because I ran out of time in the previous one. So there's not a huge amount in it. It's pretty straightforward to be honest with you. There's very little in it. It's just a little simple bit of theory. But in particular, what's happened over the last kind of year, it's possibly one that could easily pop up because really what we're talking about here is how has not how has work changed, but how are people working differently? And so the main reason, or the main way that people are working differently is they're working from home. So when we talk about mobility of labor, we talk about two specific types of labor. The first one, so this is mobility of labor, how people can move from one region to another or do a different job. It's called mobility of labor, okay? But when we look at it, the first one we look at is this thing called geographical mobility. Okay, geographical mobility. And this looks at how easy it is for you to move somewhere else and to the same sort of work. So there's a huge amount of people who, for instance, work in Dublin in their 20s and 30s, start a family, and decide to move down to the country. And the question is, well, can they do the same type of job, or can they do the exact same job but living somewhere else? Um, yes and no. There's a lot of personal issues involved. There's a lot of economic issues involved. There's a lot of financial issues involved as well. And this is always a big jump for a lot of people moving again from a large urban area to a smaller urban area for whatever personal reasons they have. Okay, um, and there's a lot of problems. I suppose how COVID has changed in this, and this is why I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on this. How COVID has changed this is it's changed the whole face of working. Okay, I mean you just have to look at any headline. In any paper about how work has changed. So this is the Independent. This is only a couple of weeks ago. You're now having companies that are allowing staff to work wherever they want, work from home full time. It used to be the case that COVID didn't happen, you'd be going to college or not going to college, you'd be getting a job and you'd be working in an office. That's completely changed now. And COVID has shown that people are just as efficient working from home as they are working in the office, and they're generally happier because you don't have to commute, you're there with your family, you have more spare time, you're not wasting time in meetings. So a lot of employees have recognized that, and of course the employees are paying a huge amount of money on rent or building an office block, and there's a huge expense involved in that. So it's kind of a win-win for the companies and for the employees. So it's changing things completely. As a result, the government are kind of getting um, they're making some adjustments to the certain laws behind this. So there's a new law that says employees will be given the option to permanently work from home. Now, some of these are state employees, but they're also in the last week, I think they brought in a law that says employers need to give you a valid reason why you cannot work from home. And this is like COVID will be over hopefully in the next 6 months. This is something that may change the face of employment completely for the future, where employees may have the right to work from home as long um, as they're not needed in an office for a specific reason. Obviously, engineering and medical are different type of industries. But one of the things that is stopping the rollout of people working from home is broadband, essentially broadband, rural broadband. Rural broadband. So the government have a strategy to get broadband into rural areas, and it's costing in excess of €1 billion. And since COVID has come along, they've started accelerating that process to get people who choose to work from home, who want to work from home, the ability to work from home, using decent broadband. Without broadband, you got nothing. Sure, that's the problem that half of you are facing as well. So that's geographical mobility, really, and this has changed. Obviously, this has changed completely, really, with COVID. Okay, economic policy. So how could they do this? So how could they want to encourage? I mean, one of the government's things to do, one of their priorities, is to move people around the country. Is distribution of services? Is this thing called a decentralization, where they don't want this massive, where they don't want Dublin to be the powerhouse of the country. They want it distributed throughout the regions. I mean, Galway, Mayo, Limerick, Cork, all throughout the main regions. They want these little hubs, and so they want people to move out into the countryside. And how do they do that? Well, there's obvious stuff. So this is a government intervention in the mobility market. So increased housing, obviously enough. Educational facilities, including third level education as well. That's why there's so much money going into third level universities all over the country. Social infrastructure. So why do people want to move to Galway? Well, it's not just because of the prom. It's not just because of the beaches. Is there playgrounds? Is there soccer pitches? Is there the facilities that families want? And again, do government support this, etc. Okay, so that's geographical mobility. It's pretty straightforward. The second one is this thing called occupational mobility. Now, I was thinking about this, and I might have said this to you before. I've had probably about 26 or 27 jobs in my life. Small jobs that I was doing when I was 12, bigger jobs that I was doing when I was 17. And then professionally, I've probably had about 5 different jobs. Now, how could I, as an individual, move? I can move because my skills are transferable. They're transferable. And this is this thing called occupational mobility, where if I feel the need to move to a different company, to a different industry, my skills are transferable. And we should all do it. And you should all do it. None of you, when you get a job when you're 22, 23, are going to be in a job for life. That just doesn't exist anymore. My parents, when they got a job in their 60s and 70s, they pretty much stayed in the job for life. It was the done thing. Nowadays, it's all about, in fact, companies will actually encourage you to go off and just work for somewhere else. Like if you're looking at CV, a CV wants to be populated with as many different places and many different experiences. And that means staying in a place for 2 or 3 years and just saying, I'm gone. Uh, there are certain reasons why you can't do this. Number one is if you are very specific training. So if you are an orthodontist, you can't exactly go off and do it and go into another industry. If you're a mechanic, you can't exactly go off into another completely different industry. So if there's a specific training that you've gotten, it's quite difficult. You're kind of pigeonholed into a particular area. As a result, if you're doing that, there could be a high cost of you retraining. So for me personally, I had to go to college for 2 years, which is fine. I could afford it. I was young enough, but that is a cost that a lot of people cannot afford. A lot of my friends, for instance, aren't happy in their jobs. I know they're not, but they're not going to go back and train for 4 years to do a different job. They've got mortgages to pay, so they're going to be miserable for the rest of their lives. Go them. They're really pleasant people as well. And some professions present barriers to entry in the form of very high standard exams. Anyone here wants to do the bar exams, become a lawyer, solicitor, it is a barrier. And unless you can afford it, unless you can afford to take time off, it's not going to happen. Okay, so what could the government do to allow people to move between occupations? Education, education, education. That's really all there is here. Education courses, more training, more government policies on work permits. So work permits might be if you wanted to work somewhere out of the country, or you wanted to bring someone in from outside the country, or you have to get, again, kind of qualifications, trade union barriers, and they're all there as well. Education, education, education. That's what you need to do. And I think people of your generation will find it way easier to go back to college every couple of years and just retrain, because it's kind of the done thing now. And I suppose in my generation as well, but certainly in my parents' generation, absolutely not. I don't think most of your grandparents would have gone to third level at all, and some of them would have been lucky enough to finish second level education. Okay, these are the last 2 slides. Very short, very quickly. Why is so? This is off mobility of labour at the moment. What factors affect the efficiency of labour? So how are people good? How are people bad at their jobs? Training, management expertise. This is stuff we've talked about. Level of education, talent, if you have talent, blah, blah, blah. Living conditions, degree of specialization, climatic conditions, and dedication to the worker. So what makes a worker good? I mean, what makes a worker good? What makes a student good? What makes a student efficient at studying for exams? These are obvious stuff. Okay, there's about 12, 10 of them there. You only need to know about 3 or 4 of them. Okay, they're all in your book. What makes people good at their job? Yes, it's training. Yes, it's the type of manager who's watching it. Yes, it's the education you have. Yes, it's your talent. Yes, it's using your own initiative. Yes, it's the place you're working for, how good it is, the social life in the place, how happy people are there, what you're actually doing, specialization, it's all there. Easy enough. And then the last thing in this section, 2 slides in this really quickly, is why do people get different wages? So why do I get paid a different wage than other teachers in the school? Why do different mechanics get paid differently? Why do teachers get paid differently here and in England? Why do doctors get paid differently here and in Sydney? Why? There's about 10 of these. They're obvious enough. Number one, different skills. If you're more skilled, you'll get more pay. If you have to do longer training, you'll get more pay. And if you don't get more pay by going to college for 5 years, ask yourself the question, why am I getting it? Generally, if you go to college for 7 years to become a doctor, you'll get more pay than someone who doesn't go to college. Is it unfair? Depends. Okay, education qualifications. Again, obvious stuff. FETAC level 10. You come out with a FETAC level 10. You should get more money than someone on a FETAC level 4. Should you? Possibly. These are moral questions as well as ethical questions. But straight away, that's how wages are calculated. Nature conditions of their jobs. Certain jobs are dangerous. Certain jobs you have to work at night time. Certain jobs you might have to work at weekends. If that's the case, you would demand more wages. Okay, again, it's supply and demand. And then last one, if you have a talent, so if you have an amazing talent, if you're an amazing musician, amazing actor, amazing sports person, there's, again, we talked about this, there is a high demand for your job, but there's a low supply of people with that qualification. So you'll get loads of money. That's why a lot of soccer players, basketball players, golf players get loads of money. And if there's regulation to their job, so again, lawyers, solicitors, doctors, dentists, vets, whatever the case may be, they would attract the elites, and the elites are obviously going to pay themselves a lot of money. Employees trade union, if they have a very strong trade union, a very strong, powerful, not powerful, but a strong and determined trade union, they can negotiate pretty good wages for you. And then the last one here is you may get non-monetary benefits. So these are called a benefit in kind. So again, you might get a company car, you might get a laptop, you might get gym membership, you might get longer holidays, you might get subsidized healthcare, etc. And I think that is that. Okay, so a lot of theory here for the last one, but it's pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. Shanae, leave a comment, leave a question. Too easy. See you later. Bye 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 bye.